welcome back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. This late Tuesday afternoon video is a wee update on one or two wee transfer stories and rumours bubbling under at Celtic, and also one or two wee other thoughts regarding the Aberdeen game. Plus, we'll have a wee update on several different transfer stories. As I was saying, the main one appears to be Celtic in the market to buy Andy Irving, the central midfielder from West Ham, plus wee updates on the situation regarding Orjasaeter, Obert, Balikwisha, and a couple others. So, just as we start, we look at Celtic's 2-0 win at Aberdeen at the weekend. Goals from Benjamin Nygren in the 27th minute, an assist by Kieran Tierney, and Celtic's second goal, brilliant shot from the edge of the box into the top corner by Orjasaeter, with Benjamin Nygren giving him the assist that was giving Celtic a lead after 66 minutes. Stats very much in Celtic's favour. Shots 13-6 in favour of Celtic, 4-2 for on targets. Possessions 71-29 for Celtic. Touches in the box twice as much for Celtic as for Aberdeen, 23-11. And corners were 6-1. And so Celtic good and efficient in front of goal, putting two of their four shots away that were on target and creating 9 other chances. So all around a good game for Celtic. Gave Kasper Schmeichel 7, Alistair Johnson 7.5, Carter Vickers and Kieran Tierney both 7, Liam Scales at 6, Callum McGregor 7.5, Orjasaeter 7, Benjamin Nygren man of the match and 8, James Forrest 7, Adam Ida 5.5, Dyson Myra 6.5, and 6 to Yamada, Engels and McCowan coming off the bench, and 6.5 for Austin Trusty coming off the bench. Having had another wee look at those, the full game and the highlights and so on, I think it does confirm Celtic were much the better side. Very promising games from Benjamin Nygren and Kieran Tierney, both significantly better in this game than they were against St Mirren. Kieran Tierney, only slight worry is with his fitness and ability to end the match, and it would appear at the moment the current plan Brendan Rodgers has is to start with Kieran Tierney and then swap in Austin Trusty at centre-back and Liam Scales over to left-back, and it's working pretty fine. Liam Scales not so talented as Tierney going forward, but certainly does have a go pushing forward into midfield into the final third. Scales' final ball is pretty decent, and also Scales gives good defensive ability at left back and gives us extra height in both boxes, and so I think it's a pretty good stopgap at the moment while Celtic look to see whether they can get a player willing to be back up to Kieran Tierney. Adam Ida, slow to start the season. I thought Shin Yamada was promising in his half an hour or so at the end of the game. Shows quite a lot of pace, and I think Maeda and Yamada could be a twosome that swap positions from time to time, giving Maeda the ability to drive through the middle, and Yamada the ability coming off the right wing or the left wing. Celtic's transfer priorities very much remain, I think, in terms of getting 2 or 3 wide players, giving us more depth at the right wing position, back up for Dyson Maeda at the left wing position, and I would be really keen for Celtic to get a real number 1 striker, as I think Adam Ida is at his best as the number 2 coming off the bench and making intermittent starts. Yamada, I think, is going to take a wee bit of time to get used to Scottish football, but I think he's going to be a very good player coming off the bench, and he has got the pace to play out wide if Rodgers wants to use him in that role. And I think we could have a hybrid of Kyogo and Dyson Maeda if Shin Yamada settles down at Celtic. So a wee roundup of the players that Celtic have been looking at over the last transfer window or two. There appears to be a bit of resolution regarding a couple of them. who will be heading off to teams not Celtic. And also we update on several of the players that Celtic are said still to be looking at as potential transfers, and a wee brief stats profile for Andy Irving from West Ham. So, Sondre Orjasaeter of Sarpsborg, player that Celtics put in an approximately £4.4 million bid in the winter window that was turned down by his club. He appears now to have been signed by 20 Enschede for a deal that's going to be worth £6.5 million in the end. Wasn't personally that convinced with Orjasaeter's ability or amount of good games as yet for Sarpsborg. Did show one or two good talents, but I didn't think he was anywhere near worth the money that Sarpsborg were asking for, and certainly does not strike me as being a £6.5 million player, so I'm not that fussed that we've lost him. Player that I was keen for Celtic to sign, Lennon Miller of Motherwell. He appears on the verge of signing a £4.3 million transfer to Udinese in Italy. I do have one or two inside contacts who know Lennon Miller from school, and they say that his friends at parties and football type things say that Lennon Miller had no intention of staying in Scotland, and his only wish was to leave Scottish football and play in Europe, ideally in France, Germany, or Italy. And so it does appear that he has got his wish. And I think, from what my inside sources are saying, it doesn't sound like he ever thought that a transfer to Celtic, Rangers, or any other British club at this point was good for his career. And so we'll see how he settles down into Italian football. And certainly Scotland has had a number of players do very well over there in the last couple of seasons. Celtic remain interested in Michel Onge Balikwisha. It would appear that Royal Antwerp are holding out for a fee of around £4.7 million. That would mean, in essence, they were getting the money back that they bought him for a couple of seasons ago. The risk with Balikwisha in terms of Antwerp is his contract runs out at the end of next June. And so when it comes to the winter window, it would look like he could then sign for any club that he wishes. And so I do think over the course of the last few weeks of the transfer window, Royal Antwerp will, in essence, sell Balikwisha to whichever club is willing to pay as close as possible to 4.7 million. I think he would be a good player at Celtic. Has lost a wee bit of his pace and trickery, but I think he still would be able to do a good job on the right wing and the left wing, and could well be a very good backup for Dijsselbloem, with also the ability to play as a second striker and in midfield as well. So we'll see how that one progresses over the next couple of weeks. Celtic were said to be looking at Obert of Cagliari, Slovakian centre-back and left-back. There were rumours that Celtic had made a bid for him. It does appear that Cagliari are holding out for £6 million for him. Nobody has upped a bid to that level, although Heidenheim of the German Bundesliga are interested in him. And I would be very surprised if Obert ends up at Celtic, or that Celtic sign any more centre-backs in this transfer window, although Obert's ability to play left-back may be an option if he was willing to be the backup to Kieran Tierney. Finally, for this wee video, just a wee profile of Andy Irving, a player that Celtic are said to be looking at to add to their central midfielder team. Andy Irving has won caps for Scotland, 25 years old, 5'10", currently playing for West Ham. Contract runs out with them in the end of June 2026. And it's thought that he is on a very, very modest £5,000 a week at West Ham, and so would fit in just fine into Celtic's wage structure. He primarily is a conventional central midfielder, plays 2/3 of his games in that position, has played some games at attacking midfield and some games at defensive midfield. Looking at his stats and ratings for West Ham last season, he had an average rating of 6.71, played 11 games for them, 10 times as a sub, 1 start, no goals, no assists. That's not terribly encouraging. Prior to that, he played for Hearts, Berwick Rangers, Falkirk, Klagenfurt in the second tier in Austria, and Turk Guku Mention, who are now a fifth tier team in Germany. Looking at his time at Hearts, 61 games, 5 goals, 13 assists. At Klagenfurt, 64 games, 16 goals, 14 assists. And over his whole career at all those 6 different clubs, 210 games, 24 goals, 34 assists. So okay stats for goals and assists, but not really the highest levels. And looking in a wee bit more depth at his ratings last season for West Ham, he certainly is a very good accurate passer, 90% overall, 86% in opposition half, both of which obviously very impressive. However, very poor for chance creation, very poor for shots on goal. So not really a threat in the final third in terms of scoring or setting up others. He's got rather poor defensive midfield stats for things like tackles, interceptions, blocks, clearances, etc. So it doesn't really sound like a player who could drop back into the Callum McGregor role. And he's got okay or below average levels for things like winning the ball in the air and winning duels on the ground, although he does actually have a low number of possession losses per game. And so there are 1 or 2 positives to his stats. I personally can't really see where Celtic need another midfielder, especially if it's not going to be a defensive midfielder, which I do think is a bit of a hole for Celtic. It doesn't seem that Irving would fill that role. Doesn't really appear that he would be a player who could really force his way into the team over Engels, McCowan, Paolo Bernardo, Negrin, Hattati, McGregor, etc., etc. And so I'm not massively sure why Celtic are looking to buy him. And I think this might well be a story created by West Ham or his agent to drum up possible transfers to other leagues. But we'll see how that one progresses. But I would be actually very disappointed if Celtic spend 3.5 million on Andy Irving, as I don't really see him as fitting into Celtic structure or being of the quality to push any of our existing midfielders or academy midfielders out of the pecking order. That just about finishes things off for today. Just a wee polite suggestion, encouragement. If you are new to the channel, not yet subscribed, please do click that subscribe button and do pop your own thoughts regarding the various transfer stories, your own thoughts regarding Andy Irving as a player into the comment section for a nice wee chat, debate, and opinion sharing amongst Celtic fans and football fans. And so until the next video, goodbye and hail, hail.